Welcome to Lesson 1 on how to build a site creation flow using Zapier. To create our workflow, we first need to set up a template. If you already have a site or template that you would like to use for your Zapier workflow, then please pull that up now. In this example, I'm working with an imaginary client in real estate, so I'm going to first create a site using the real estate template, which I will use as the template for the Zapier workflow. Now let's take a quick look at the template we'll be working with. Currently, it's pre-filled with stock images and placeholder text. All these sections, image, and text widgets are going to serve as the structure for the sites we're automating. What this means is that the information your clients provide in the intake form will automatically populate the widgets on this template. And to do this, we first need to visit the content library and look at what connected data is. Duda University offers a course on collections and connected data for a deeper understanding. For now, we'll provide a brief overview of how this works. First off, let's take a look at the content library. In the content library, you'll find a segment titled Connected Data. This segment is divided into 3 sections: Business Info, Business Text, and Business Images. After your client fills out and submits the intake form, all of that information will get stored in one of these 3 areas under Connected Data. Let's take a look at how Connected Data works. To demonstrate this, we'll work with the phone number. And let me make a quick adjustment to our template. I see there's a phone number in the header, but I'm going to remove this top section in black and instead use the Contact Us button on the right to connect to a phone number. Let's navigate to the Business Info section. Here you'll find fields for the business name, address, contact information, and social media account details. Just a quick reminder, all the information we need will be provided once the client fills out the intake form. Later in the course, we'll cover how to transfer this data from the form into the site's content library using Zapier. But before we dive into that, let's focus on how to pull data from the content library onto the site. Ultimately, our goal isn't just to store the client's data in the library, it's to make sure the site itself accurately reflects the information that's important for the client's business. And to make this work, we'll need to connect the data in the content library to widgets on the site. But before we can connect the widgets to the data, we'll need to start with some placeholder or dummy data. So I'll start by adding a random phone number under Business Info. Let's go to the editor and connect the Contact Us button to the phone number we just created under Business Info. Now, I'm not going to simply add the phone number to the button. If we do this, then every site that is generated by the form will have the same phone number. Instead, we want to connect it to data, allowing the phone number to be dynamic and update with the relevant phone number of each business. Notice in the dropdown that only the placeholder phone number we just created appears as an option. If we had other phone numbers in the content library, those would appear here as other options. Similarly, if there weren't any phone numbers listed in the content library, there wouldn't be anything for us to connect to. This is why it's important having placeholder data in the content library so that we are able to connect widgets on the site. Let's connect that button to the phone number. I'll also replace the Contact Us text with the phone number. You'll notice that when we select the button, an icon of 2 interlocking rings appears, signifying that the widget has been connected to data. Your templates will have various sections and widgets connected to data. This setup ensures that anytime a new form request comes through, a new site is created with that client's relevant information. Remember, the information that the client enters in the form will be stored in the content library, and that data will get pushed on the site if it's connected to a widget. So once I update the phone number through the content library, then the phone number on the button also updates. Next, let's take a look at the business text area, which is the place we're going to connect most of our text widgets to. See the copy in this section? You can connect any of these text widgets to fields under business text. I'll show you an example. I'm going to connect the description text in this section to make it dynamic. But before we connect, we need to head on over to the business text area to create the field. Otherwise, there'll be nothing for you to connect to. In business text, you'll notice we have some predefined fields, such as About Us and the services that the business offers. But we can also create our own fields by clicking Add Another Text at the bottom. We'll just want to make sure any business text you create has a label. And let's not forget to add some placeholder text here. It is important you have placeholder text and images in your templates. If you leave the fields blank, you may run into issues later. For every field you use or create, please make sure you include some dummy info. Now let's head back to the editor. Let's connect the text block to the business text we just created. The heading may be something you'd prefer to keep static. This means every site generated through this flow will have the same heading, Agents You Can Trust. However, if you'd like it to be dynamic, you'll need to create a field for it under Business Text and connect it to the text widget. Just keep in mind that whoever is filling out the form, whether it's you, the designer, or the client, will also need to complete this field when they're filling out that intake form. And it might be tricky asking a non-technical client what they want their H2 heading to say. We're not limited to just text, by the way. I can also connect image widgets and even section or column backgrounds to images in the content library. Any image widget or section that's connected to the content library will have its image stored under Business Images. And just like with the other pieces of data we've been connecting, in order to be able to connect an image widget to an image in the content library, I need a placeholder image. So let's add an image to the Business Images area. For this example, I'll use the same image. However, I could technically use any random image I find here, since in the end, it will only be used as a placeholder. Now we should be able to connect the image widget to the business image we just created. It's the same image, but notice the rings indicating it's connected. Now when a new form submission comes through and someone uploads their own team image, it will update on the site. Our goal here is simple. We want to ensure that every element on the site, whether it's widgets or backgrounds, that needs to be updated with your client's unique data or media is connected to the right fields and images in the content library. This way, everything stays in sync and up to date with ease. You may have noticed we have a media slider widget in the Hero section, and we'll learn to connect these types of widgets in a later course. For now, I'm going to remove the widget and instead connect the section's background to an image under Business Images. So this section also becomes dynamic and gets updated with the client's preferred hero image. And just so we can see the section, I'm going to change its background color. Now I'm going to open the content library and create a new business image for our hero section's background. Next, let's connect this section to the business image we just added in the library. Now, let's add a couple of text widgets, a field for a catchy tagline, and another for the hero's heading. We'll just need to make sure these two text elements are also connected to business text in the content library. To wrap up our first lesson, let's scroll down this page and see what other elements can be connected to the content library. Let's look at the contact form. You can actually connect this form to an email address in the content library. Whatever email address you link it to will be the one that receives leads submitted through the form. Pretty cool, right? Just make sure there's a placeholder email address in the content library, otherwise you'll have nothing to connect it to. This section here has a photo gallery displaying some properties. We can also make this photo gallery dynamic to show your client's properties. I'll start by adding a new page, and let's select the dynamic page option. You can choose a blank page if you have an idea of what you want this page to look like, but I'll choose the real estate option since it'll have the structure I need. Let's take a look at the page. Notice all these widgets have those two interlocking rings, letting us know they are connected to data. And let's look at this drop-down at the top. Clicking it allows me to navigate to the other property listing pages. But how are these listings being generated? When I visit the content library, then click on Collections, we'll find a collection with some dummy data. Each row represents a page or property listing, while each field or column corresponds to an element on the dynamic page, such as a widget. Think about who will be filling out this section. Will it be your designer or possibly your client? I'll include a supplemental video in this lesson in case you're interested in learning more about the Create Client action in Zapier, which lets you invite them to edit their site. Now that we have some properties, let's head back to our home page to connect the photo gallery. Click on the photo gallery and connect it to the dynamic pages we just created. The collection and dynamic pages are now integrated into your template, so whenever a new site is created, it automatically generates its own set of dynamic pages and collections, ready for you to customize and manage with ease. Go through your template and make it dynamic by connecting widgets to fields in the content library. As you're going through the site, think about which elements you want to contain unique information about a client's business and which elements can be left static. Once you're finished connecting the template, make sure to save this site as a template. For instructions on how to save a site as a template, please visit the support article attached at the end of this lesson.